What's up, everybody? Hope everyone is having a great Sunday so far, staying safe, practicing social distancing. I am here with a very special guest today, Logan from Noles Gameday. Logan, man, it is a pleasure to have you on my YouTube channel. You're a very knowledgeable YouTube channel that you have. Go ahead and introduce yourself real quick to everyone watching.
Hope y'all are having a good Sunday. I know we are. We actually get to sit here and talk some sports for a little bit. Hopefully get some entertainment out there. But I'm Logan Robinson. I'm from Noel Gameday. I'm the founder and owner right now of NoelGameday.com. And maybe some of y'all, at least from the YouTube crowd, might know me from the Mark Rogers college football talk show on Tuesday nights, where I talk with Jason Parker and Mark a lot about FSU football. But thank you for inviting me on. If there's any time that we can talk football while we're all stuck in the house, obviously, then we can do it.
Absolutely, Logan, anytime. And let's get into the circumstances. Spring has been canceled. I want to get into how deeply this is going to affect teams and which teams specifically are going to be affected the most. What are your thoughts on that?
The number one that comes to my head, I mean, obviously, y'all have had y'all's coach now second year. Obviously, Florida also. So now I'm looking at Florida State, and it's tough. You bring in, obviously, there's been a lot. There's got to be a culture change once again. We thought there might have been one when Taggart came, but it kind of got worse. So there's a mix of having to have a culture change, and also, I mean, you're learning with the new coaching staff. You're out there on the field also just to get conditioning in. Also in the weight room, which is also closed off right now for all universities. So it's tough for Florida State. Do I think Norvell has started off well? I do think so. We were expecting to have a lot more transfers coming out of Florida State leaving. One of them being possible number one starting running back, Kane LeBourne, but it seems like he's 100% in. I thought he would be anyways, but a lot of people thought other players were going to be leaving. So I think Coach Norvell, it's not over yet. He's still got to get a lot of these other guys to buy in, but we're seeing a lot of good signs. It seems like during the offseason too, your head coach Dabo Sweeney, Nick Saban will say it too. During the offseason, your head coach is a strength and conditioning coach. And so Coach Storms, that came from Memphis with Norvell, it seems like the players love him. I'm seeing videos every day. We were talking about before we start recording of guys working out. They're finding different ways to get conditioning and lift as much as they can. And so I think there's good signs coming out of the first little bit of spring practice for FSU, but we only got to see really 3 practices, only 1 day in pads. And, Norvell has to continue to, lay a presence down. You still got to change the culture and try to learn that playbook and get everything down. But I think Florida State is kind of in the bad spot here with all this going on.
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit it right on a nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
First year head coaches. Look at Mike Norvell. I think in the springtime, that's when, the team bonds with the head coach. He kind of gets his system down packed. I was worried because Miami has a new OC just getting down a playbook, yet this is an entirely different coaching staff coming in with Mike Norvell, completely different philosophy he's going to be implementing. So I truly do think it's going to impact first-year head coaches the most. And then just having literally just a month to get ready for your first week. And you guys open up with Boise State, right?
At West Virginia and Atlanta, if that does happen. We will have to go to Florida State. We'll have to go to Boise State, I think, week 3rd, which is going to be, which is not going to be easy. Obviously, Florida State lost last year. I think Boise State's quarterback, he came in as a true freshman and beat FSU and Doak. I don't know how he survived that whole game, but yeah, Florida State. Another thing, going back to your point for FSU, Coach Norvell has been, it's going to be a wake-up call for a lot of these players. So I think they already noticed it right away. There's a lot more organization in the practices and what I had seen personally and what I've heard from players, even assistant coaches and definitely reporters of being there. Taggart's practices are a whole, it's almost like a 180 from Norvell. I mean, there's a lot more direction. Norvell is going to every position group. He's right in on you, yelling, getting after it. Because, I mean, I think this team, you got a lot of guys coming to FSU from down south, a lot of these recruits they want to, get yelled at, I guess you say, but they want to be coached hard. They want to be
Right.
held accountable. We even Keith Gavin, who just left Florida State, said, he didn't come here to play for Willie Taggart. He came to play for Jimbo Fisher. I wanted to have a strict coach on me. So it said a lot about that. And I think it's a wake up call. It was the start of a wake up call for FSU players. Now they're kind of, lingered off and they're home at their homes now, trying to train and stuff. But I'm sure they're like, wow, this is a little bit of a different start than what it was with Willie Taggart for practice, at least.
And Logan, I want to pick your brain a little bit. When did you kind of the red sirens went off when you thought, hey, maybe Willie Taggart isn't the guy at Florida State?
Possibly. There was a mix of different things. Number one, I was seeing a lot of immaturity on the sideline. So if they're, just messing around when you're down two or three touchdowns where you shouldn't be down 2 or 3 against an opponent down 2 or 3 touchdowns, just messing around. And then also on the field, not being held accountable. We've had multiple former Noles talk on our podcast who won in the 2013 national championship say these cats weren't holding anybody accountable. There was there wasn't like a leader out there. And that's something that Florida State lacked a lot. And not holding your teammates accountable was something big. Guys celebrating whenever the player got a first down, your opponent got a first down, and you're still celebrating because you got a hard hit on them. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense whatsoever. So that was big. And then I think also the quarterback situation. I wasn't a big fan of what Francois brought to the team. I thought he was kind of like, it was just a bad fit for FSU. It was kind of a bad disease after a little while. I think he kind of decided to pick DeAndre Francois and keep him in there no matter what. I think James Blackman could have had a chance a little bit earlier on. And then the second year for Willie Taggart was tough because I hated having Hornibrook and Blackman go 1 and 2 like that. And that was just awful. So there was a lot of signs for Willie Taggart, but the strictness, too friendly. It's not going to work at Florida State. You can ask any coach in Florida, even high school coaches, being nice like that and tap them on the head after their third time messing up and having mistakes, just not going to work at Florida State. Not going to happen.
And Logan, what do you think about the Mike Norvell hiring? I'll be honest, when there were rumors flying around about Bob Stoops possibly coming down to Tallahassee, I don't know how true they were, but I was very nervous because I knew if Bob Stoops took the head coaching job down at Florida State, Miami would be in deep trouble for years to come. I think he's a great football coach. I thought Jimbo Fisher was one hell of a football coach as well. What do you think about Mike Norvell coming to Florida State? Do you see an instant impact year one? How many years will it take to maybe get the Willie Taggart philosophy out of Tallahassee? Want to hear your thoughts on that.
I think optimistic. Always try to stay optimistic. I think 2 to 3 years, you're starting to look at Florida State fight for a New Year's Six kind of bowl situation. I think after year 2, you're going to really see how the staff was really built from the foundation of where Norvell and his staff had worked together beforehand and how well that's going to transcend into how it will be at Florida State. So a lot of what Norvell did was bring guys that he's coached with before. That wasn't the case with Willie Taggart. It took forever also for Willie Taggart to grab coaches, but it didn't work out. There was too much miscommunication, weren't getting along. Well, that happened with Walt Bell and Taggart. With this one, Norvell gets his guys, and he's getting guys from the SEC. He's grabbing them. Dillingham comes from Auburn. Chris Marv comes from Mississippi State, and I think the big thing is definitely going to be the coaching staff that he's brought on, and then recruiting wise, it's going to take a while. We know here definitely with you being down with Miami, you got to win games, and you bring in some of the best guys around the country. You got to win games to get the big 5-star offensive lineman. You want the 5-star wide receiver, you got to win games. You can probably bring in 4 stars and some good 3 stars, but in order to get those big 5 stars, they don't really want to commit until later on where they can be showcased and get their limelight all over Twitter whenever they commit. So it's going to take a little while. He also probably wants to get his own quarterback. He brought in Chuba Purdy, who's possibly going Chuba Purdy and Tate Rodemaker, who I think Chuba Purdy, he flips from Louisville to FSU. I think Chuba Purdy is going to be Mike Norvell's quarterback, I guess you can say. There's another one, Luke Altmaier, who's 2021 class, who commits pretty early to go sign with Florida State under Mike Norvell. So I think it will be a little while, but you're going to see a good right step year one in that direction if we do have football, which I'm not even going to say we are going to have football. I think you're going to see a right foot in the direction where I think fans will see different signs of discipline. Not all that celebrating around whenever you're already down 3 touchdowns, smiling, acting the fool. I think that's what players want. I think that's what I hope fans, at least at Florida State, understand, that these players want to be coached very hard, because that's the only way that you're going to get to a New Year's Six college football play. If you want to get coached very hard, you want to get yelled at, because it also means a coach cares about you. So I think it'll take about at least 2 to 3 years, and Florida State should start fighting for New Year's Six bowls.
Right, absolutely. And I don't think it's that it's very reachable for, I think, any for Florida State, for Miami. Look at Florida. Are they the most talented football team? Are they that dominant compared to a Florida or a Clemson? No, they're not that dominant. Florida, I think they go into a New Year's Six bowl. I think they're going to continuously go to a New Year's Six bowl with Dan Mullen as their head coach. And he did a pretty quick turnaround. I know his first year was very tough, but I think it is very reachable for any school, specifically in the Sunshine State, because of all the great recruits. And I think, Jimbo Fisher did something really good. He was very he recruited a lot of kids out of South Florida, Devontae Freeman, Dalvin Cook, for example, a lot of good players. He did a really good job in the Sunshine State, and he was very successful.
Yeah, so that is true.
I think recruiting in the state of Florida, marking your territory, will take you farther and get you to a New Year's Six bowl game, which is realistic, I think, for any program wants to get in the state of Florida. But are there any concerns that you're like, I know it's so early, so maybe how is Mike Norvell considered? Is he considered a good recruiter coming into Florida State? I know he did a great job getting in a lot of SEC coaches, like you just stated. But how was his, quick recruitment turnaround, or how has it been so far?
I think, obviously, once again, Florida State's in a tough spot where he's got to, at least the last 2 coaches with Taggart and him, got to recruit quickly and try to get guys on board. I think he did a pretty solid job for what position he was in. It was tough. It wasn't the greatest, but it wasn't terrible. He was able to keep a majority of his guys. But then again, he also, Jeff Sims, 4-star quarterback, now at Georgia Tech, could have kept him if he really wanted to. Okay. But supposedly he sat down with him. Jeff Sims was a huge bell cow for the 2020 class. Sat there, or 2019 class, he sat there, talked with them, and kind of said, hey, and he's being honest with them. I respect you, Jeff. I just know that you wouldn't fit in my offense, and it wouldn't work as well. He obviously probably would have fit a little bit better into Willie Taggart's and Kendall Briles, but he was straight up with them, sat down, I think, in his house and pretty much told him that. And that's why they kind of separated ways. And Jeff Sims is now at Georgia Tech, and best of luck to him, a great kid. But it goes to show, and he's done that, I think, even with current players that have now left early from Florida State. I'm thinking Stanford Samuels, a cornerback. He kind of sits there and tells them, and that's where he grows respect, probably, to recruits and families. He'll be straight up with you and tell you, this is where you'll probably be utilized in the offense, or maybe you won't be able to fit, and it's just not that's not where you're going to be. I don't think you should try to look at maybe at other schools. So that's what he did early in the recruiting process at FSU. What he's going to have to do now, though, is he's going to have to win games. He's not best known as a recruiter, but he's a good scouting guy. He's able to find kind of like those 3 stars, or maybe even guys that aren't even ranked, that come in and that might be able to produce. I think he's a good developer, but as a recruiting guy, it's not the same as what Willie Taggart was, and definitely his strength in Florida. So I think in order to grab, like we were talking earlier about 5 stars and big cats like that, got to win games and show it on the field. He's got a good staff around him for recruiting wise, assistants. and I think Mike Norvell is good talking wise. I think he's a good speaking guy in front of people, and he'll really get you fired up. But you got to get wins for definitely big guys, definitely in Florida. You want to, and he was strict right away in his press conference. That was the first thing he was talking about, and what he was going to start doing. He said, I'm going to get in contact with all the Florida high school coaches. I'm going to visit them. I'm going to have them come visit. I want them all to come because the talent he said the talent here is so rich. It's the richest in the country. And so I know it's smart by him. Any Florida coach coming in should say that. But so definitely focus on Florida recruiting, and you got to be able to develop wins, and you can't be fighting for bowl games. You got to be fighting for New Year's Six bowl games and the ACC championship, obviously.
Absolutely. And, speaking about first-year head coaches, I think you kind of see the improvements year two. I want to pick your brain on Coach Manny Diaz. What's your take on Coach Manny Diaz from last season going into year two? Do you think he can possibly turn the corner year two, or is this going to be the same kind of story we've seen in the past with University of Miami football?
I'm a little nervous for Miami after just what I saw last year. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know if I can relate it close to what was going on with Willie Taggart. I don't know if Manny Diaz was kind of going and wanting to get close with the players and kind of have that friendship bond. You would know better than me, but it seemed like there probably there might need to be a culture change. I know he's trying to bring back a lot of the former Miami Hurricanes to kind of lay a presence down of what it should be and what it was. The Miami, I mean, I was still pretty young at the time, but from what my dad told me, the Miami Hurricanes were nasty back in the day, and it made for a great rivalry between Florida State and Miami. We haven't been able to see, at least, we have early on when I was younger, but we haven't been able to see really. There's been a streak and then another streak. So we had a streak against y'all, and now you have a streak against Florida State. So we haven't been able to see, just really good, closely ranked teams going at it where the streak stops almost. So Manny Diaz, I think he's obviously moved around the staff a little bit. He's trying to probably bring in a little bit more, I don't know what to say, a little bit more security to the culture around there. I don't know. I do think recruiting wise, that's the thing. He's able to bring in guys, and then sometimes we'll go to the notepad and then they'll decommit. And I just wonder, obviously, if Miami were to be winning, the recruiting would be a lot better in that regard. I don't think you'd have a lot of guys obviously decommitting. But Manny Diaz, I think a second year should be better. I also wonder about now the quarterback situation. You got a new quarterback coming in. That should help just a tad. I think that will help also because the last quarterbacks that y'all have had in y'all's cycle and out there starting, it wasn't that spectacular. And we can say the same, I guess, over here too. So I think a year two, there should be a little bit more. There should be a better fight in the ACC for them, for Manny Diaz and Miami.
Absolutely. And are you familiar at all with D'Eriq King? I think I myself am a fan of college football, and he did an outstanding job at Houston his junior season, and then he sat out after the first 4 games when Dana Holgorsen came in. But I think any quarterback that comes in and has 50 total touchdowns is a playmaker. What are your thoughts if you're informative with D'Eriq King? Because I know he plays in the AAC, and he's the Miami transfer. Yeah,
so D'Eriq King, I remember all of us were watching Houston a lot the last couple of years, not really much last year maybe, but the one thing about us at Florida State is that we were keeping an eye on King because Kendall Briles and the connection there. And if Kendall Briles would have stayed at Florida State, I think that would have been his number one landing spot, would be in Tallahassee. But Kendall Briles obviously gone off to Arkansas. So that was cut off. We were thinking, we were keeping a good eye on what D'Eriq King and what maybe Kendall Briles was doing. Obviously, that didn't happen. Derek King wants to go down south, go to Florida, Miami, and so I think it's a threat to Florida State. I think it's a threat to anybody that's playing against Miami Hurricanes. I think he's a good quarterback, solid guy. He can move, shifty too, and that's something that Florida State has always struggled with, which is really, really sad because Florida State has linebackers that are the size of DBs, and you would think they'd be able to catch the quarterback going left and right, but that's just not the case. So I think Miami has a great quarterback. I think whenever he announced and it became official that he was coming to Miami, I think a lot of Florida State fans kind of woke a little bit and were like, okay, so they got a quarterback now. Obviously, Florida down in Gainesville is keeping their guy and said goodbye to Felipe. So I think right now, does it seem like for you think King? I mean, King is practically your starter heading into September.
Absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, he's actually take this with a grain of salt, but it's been a lot of outlets have had him as like a dark horse for the Heisman as well. I'm not trying to overhype him at all. This is just what numerous media outlets say. And fair point. I mean, the guy had 50 total touchdowns as an underclassman. So, I mean, that is a decent assessment stats-wise. So I'm excited, but I'm also excited that we're finally getting a new offensive coordinator that goes very up-tempo, kind of like Kendall Briles, goes no huddle. We're going to go no huddle. Brett Lashley. I don't know if you're familiar with him down at SMU and Auburn, but
a little bit.
That's what I'm most excited about. And I think you take the athleticism just with any school in the state of Florida has the best athletes in the country. You take the athleticism, the speed at Miami, you put in an up-tempo, no-huddle offense, you might have something there. Very exciting that because I felt like last year's offense, and you saw a peak of it throughout the season with Dan Enos, it was god-awful. It was like Big Ten, Wisconsin-style football. I mean, we don't have that. Florida State and Miami have had the worst offensive line units in the nation the past couple of years.
That's atrocious. That's what I should have mentioned earlier about what Norvell is going to have to fix. It's offensive lines between Florida State and Miami. I mean, it is a complete blank show, if you know what I'm saying. It is something that I just don't understand how awful it can get and how worse it can get almost every season. I feel like high school linemen are playing better than what is going on in the 305 and 850 because I don't know. It's a mix of the players too, but coaching is huge. Florida State just brought in Alex Atkins and another young coach. That's the thing with Norvell. Norvell has brought in two of the youngest coaches practically on the staff. Chris Marv, linebackers coach, where Florida State is struggling. Offensive line coach Alex Atkins, really young, terribly the offensive line is struggling. It's been struggling the last 5 years. It's the offensive line between Miami and Florida State is it's just you can make fun of it on national media. I feel like I could get out there, but then again, I'm about 200 pounds less than them, so that's probably not going to happen. But I feel like a lot of us on Saturdays, I can guarantee you there's enough rage where you're like, I will get my butt out there and I will play a lot better than my left guard is right now.
Oh no, yeah, it's horrendous. And you look at other programs in the past years like Washington State, Texas Tech. We can even mention Marshall, Dana Holgerson's offense. They don't have good talent at the offensive line unit. Miami, Florida State, by far, will always have much more talent. But their offense caters to the offensive line where you can hide a weak offensive line because you're going to get the ball out really quick. So I think that's something that needs to be implemented when you have a weak offensive line. I don't know why coaches take so long to get that philosophy going, but, hopefully that can happen in the near future.
Yes.
Hey, Logan, quick question. What are your thoughts on Jaylan Knighton? Personally, this is my favorite recruit. When we flipped him from Florida State, it kind of made me think, hey, maybe Manny Diaz might have something going here. We're 6-7. I think we just got one of the best players in the state of Florida to come to Miami. I know he was a recent commit of Florida State, then decommitted. Were you able to do some information, recruiting notebooks regarding him? Just want to hear your thoughts on Jaylan Knighton.
Yeah, Jaylan Knighton is one that I think a lot of FSU fans and beat writers would say I think would have done really good in Tallahassee. He's very talented, shifty. You can go look at his huddle film. It's very exciting to watch. So once he flipped, and it wasn't a total surprise for fans at FSU. We kind of knew, at least covering him, he's kind of a guy where if he's going to visit, he's a hot guy. So he's kind of like, if you're the last team to have him visit, he's probably going to go to you.
Okay.
So when he would come to FSU, it was like, all in, I'm here, let's do it, I'm all in. He would kind of travel around to other schools, and then it'd start getting iffy around. And then whenever we went to Miami, obviously the flip happened, and I can definitely understand the flip, most certainly. Obviously, we knew Willie Taggart was bye-bye, and Coach Pimpleton is no longer at Florida State. But talking about Jaylan Knighton, fast, good hips, he's kind of like got a strong build too. He's definitely, I think, going to be utilized very well in that quick offense that Miami is going to try to run. And I think he will be. I think that that 1-2 punch with King and Knighton will work very well, hopefully, for Miami. Unless it's playing Florida State. I don't want to. If there's any FSU fans in here, I don't want to get ripped apart. But I think Jaylan Knighton is a very, very talented running back. I think Florida State fans can't be ignorant and say, oh, whatever, he's going to Miami. Florida State lost a pretty good running back, and Miami got him, and I think he'll work very well at offense for Manny Diaz.
I think best case scenario is what I'm picturing Jaylan Knighton to have that Dalvin Cook effect that Cook had at Florida State. I mean, that guy took over games. And he played his best game against Miami because he was from Miami too. So I really hope he can make that impact, because that's what Miami's been missing, a national radar kind of player that you have on offense where everybody knows that's your weapon. That's your go-to guy on third down, fourth down. That's where the ball's going and they can't stop it. So I really hope that is the case that we have with De'Ara King and Jaylan Knighton, but a lot can be said.
Nine does have that build of Dalvin Cook. I was gonna say it. He does have that type of high tuck ball. He's kind of got that upper build that Dalvin had, and he might be even bigger than when Dalvin came in, because Dalvin really started putting on weight and definitely upper body going into sophomore year. And there's a lot of similarities there, and eye vision too. Dalvin had some really good eye vision where you'd have two guys on you straight to your left side, but he's already watching to the right and seeing if he can shift right. He's kind of like on skates a little bit. He did it against Florida too, just putting guys on skates. But they're good eye vision too for a young guy coming from high school, and I think you're seeing a lot more of that. You're seeing a lot more talented guys coming out of high school with good vision on eyes, and they're watching a lot of film more. I think that's probably what it is. Back in the day, you couldn't do that as much, but now there's so much film you can watch at home and stuff. Their visions and running backs are getting better.
Absolutely. And man, Logan, I want to get into schedule predictions real quick, man, but when is Miami and Florida State? I was thinking about this real quick. When are they ever going to meet up for the ACC championship game? Because when they left the Big East, the end goal was to make lots of money with a top 10 matchup every year with Miami, Florida State meeting in different divisions. When do you think Florida State is going to get back to the ACC championship game? Because I know Clemson is the walking beast in that division, and I think they're too far ahead. I think that's a dynasty until Dabo leaves. And when do you think Miami possibly, when could this happen? Or will it never happen, I guess?
I sure hope it does happen. Like, I'm seeing your comments in here, a couple of people saying that, college football is better when Florida State and Miami and Florida are good at the same time, when all the Florida teams are rocking. I need Brent Venables to go ahead and take an NFL job somewhere. I'm
Yeah.
tired of him. Just, I don't know what it is between Dabo Sweeney and him. I don't know if they have like wine nights together. I don't know if they have a secret relationship that we don't know yet. But they seem to not be able to cut it off at all. Also, Dabo's paying him some good money. Let's don't be wrong, but able to get rid of Jeff Scott. So Clemson's still going to be there, obviously. And so Florida State, like I said, 2 to 3 years at least from Florida State's front of things. I think Miami has a better chance of getting up there than Florida State. We have that freaking monster to deal with, which I think we pissed them off in 2013. They almost had a chance to get FSU in 2014, talking about Clemson. Whenever Florida State went to Death Valley and annihilated them, I think Dabo Sweeney was like, I've got to do what Jimbo did and figure out what we're doing wrong. And sadly, that pissed off the beast. And now here they are, and they're going to college football playoffs every year, winning national championships. And so I think it's going to take about 2 to 3 years if we see Florida State versus Miami. I think that's something that obviously Miami fans want to see also in the ACC championship. And we put out a graphic, and this is, I'll probably get crapped on in the comments, but we put a ACC championship logo, or we put an ACC championship trophy, and then a Miami logo, and we said they're practicing really good social distancing. So
that's a good one.
That is
good.
So obviously, but ACC championship, I would most certainly be at that game. I would love a good Florida State versus Miami. Anybody that the whole country would love it. Kirk Herbstreit, ESPN loves, not for some reason. I mean, it's valuable for sure. Florida State versus Miami is always going to be on the ABC ESPN. It was, I believe, last year, and the teams weren't the greatest. I mean, they always put them on primetime 3:30 or 8 p.m. no matter what on ABC ESPN. So they're always going to do that. Put them. I want to see two good teams, and I think Norvell and hopefully Diaz can get it cooking, and we'll be in Charlotte watching a good game between two Florida teams in the ACC championship.
Yeah, no, I hope so. It's been long overdue. It really has, and it's more on Miami's part of not delivering in that respect, because we're in the weakest division in college football and Power 5 schools by far. It's pathetic. It really is pathetic. I want to get your outside perspective on what the University of Miami football program has to do to get back on track, to start winning 10 games consistently. I honestly thought for a week Mark Richt was that guy. I think he brought stability to the program, but man, Miami just hasn't been able to do it back-to-back years. And I just want to hear an outside rival's perspective on what do you think Miami is missing on hitting that goal.
So it's kind of the same way, and it's been talked about the last couple of years. Florida State and Miami are a little relatable in the fact that they're bringing in rich talent, and they'll bring in good talent. It's definitely dwindled down a little bit, but you still got guys that are very well coming in and very well respected per whatever recruiting rankings you're looking at. And it depends on the developing. I think there's just too much chirping. It needs to kind of go back to the basics of how coaching used to be. Everything has to be on media nowadays, and you got to get it out on social media, and the coach has to be nice and friendly to you. And I mean, that's how 2020 is now. I mean, you just got to be so sweet, but I can tell you right now, that's not how it works at Alabama. I can tell you right now that doesn't work at Clemson. I know for sure it doesn't work in Ohio State. There's no nice sweetness going on, hugging or tapping your helmet after you had a mistake. After Florida State had a 4-year linebacker making the third mistake, and he gets to sit out one drive, but then he gets put back in again after he, on video, was punching a player for no reason whatsoever. And he was punching a player that was in a baby league, FCS. And it's just, I could ramble on about it, but it's just all about culture change. I think you got to start bringing in accountability. Can't be sweet with these guys. If you're going to play at Miami, you're hoping that you'll get coached hard. You'll get yelled at. you'll be held accountable in a lot of ways. Florida State has to be the same way too. The way that it's been the last couple of seasons has been atrocious, and I think both of these universities can be more relatable than ever right now because you got the talent. It's just I think it's now the race to who's going to get there first between Norvell and Diaz. You got to find discipline. I guess that's what I should be saying more. Discipline, because I know you've had to deal with it. You've seen it on your side of things with the discipline over there, and it just lacking a lot in a lot of ways, and it pisses you off because you've got the talent. It's just that it's just not being utilized, and I do think Diaz bringing some of these former guys and very, very well respected former Miami Hurricanes players around is good. I hope they're having a nice private meeting and having the camera shut off so they can say certain things that probably need to be said. And I hope the same way is happening in Tallahassee because there needs to be wake up calls for both universities. But I think both me and you can agree discipline, being held accountable, and just basic good coaching is what's going to bring Miami to a better prominence down there in the 305.
And Logan, you couldn't have said it any better. I remember, Scott Patchen, who was literally a fifth-year senior who actually got another year of eligibility. He's one of those guys who plays college football for like 10 years.
Yeah.
He got 2 back-to-back penalties. He plays defensive end, and he was still playing in the game. It was just ridiculous. People were going crazy. A fifth-year senior committing 2 back-to-back penalties, and you still keep him in the game. And then keep in mind, the backup at the time was Gregory Rousseau, who literally I think had more sacks than Chase Young in the nation. And they finally started Gregory Rousseau. But, just discipline, man. You got a fifth-year senior committing back-to-back penalties. That's god-awful. You have your starting quarterback going out and partying before games or not showing up to practice, and he's your leader. And one thing I want to mention is I think it starts with the starting quarterback. Miami hasn't had an NFL draft pick in quite a while in the top 3 rounds since I can't remember. Look at Florida State's success with Christian Ponder, Jameis Winston. Then you had that 1-year Notre Dame transfer quarterback. I can't think of his name. Everett Golston, is that his name?
Yeah, Golston. Yep, Golston. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, 3 good quarterbacks. One quarterback won the Heisman. The other one played for the Vikings in the NFL, Christian Ponder. I remember when you guys had Drew Weatherford, Chris Ricks. That was the downtime of Florida State. Look at Miami. Look at their past history at quarterbacks. It's been pathetic. So I think quarterback play is key. Once you have a good quarterback, it changes everything.
That is true. You got to have the quarterback also that shows it on the field, but also in the locker room being a leader. Luckily, Florida State was able to not really find he was out there, but lucky to grab him with Jameis Winston. He's just a different kind of animal. He's gonna eventually find another NFL team, but he coming in, the leadership that was woken up. I mean, Florida State in that 2013 team had a ton of leaders, but I think it was woken up because of Jameis Winston. He came in, he wanted to win. He told them that. Do I think he could have played his redshirt freshman year or his true freshman year? I think he could behind EJ Manuel a little bit. EJ Manuel too was very well respected and really good leader.
I forgot about him. Yeah, he was good. He played with the Bills after, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so having a leader, you're right. Having a leader at quarterback is huge. Florida State, like I was saying earlier, DeAndre Francois, there is not a leader. That's why I pushed really hard for James Blackman. I thought that at least it might not be a better play on the field, but you'd have a more strict team. I think you'd also have an offensive line that would fight harder for Blackman over DeAndre Francois, because not a lot of them were on the same page, whereas James Blackman and his connection with the teammates was above, like, through the roof. And so, yeah, and there's definitely things where I've heard just a lot of things about what was going on with Francois, and it just wasn't, like I said earlier, it was just a bad disease and it wasn't going to work well. So having a leader definitely on your team, but offensively too, and have that offensive line will play a little bit better to a guy that they love, and they'll bleed for him too out there on the field.
Okay. All right, Logan. Well, I want to hear your season prediction, and I want you to give me the prediction of the Miami-Florida State game.
Ooh.
After the last one. So give me your win-loss record, and then what's your prediction on Miami-Florida State? And keep in mind, I mean, we're so far away. Injuries could happen at any position, which can change the outcome of the game. But just want to hear right now, today, if you had to give a prediction.
Right now, early, and this is, you're not the first person to ask. Whenever we go on IG Live, I'm getting the same question. What's happening? What's the prediction? Are we going to college football playoff? What's going on? Like, no, sadly, you're probably gonna unfollow. That's not happening anytime soon. But I think I'm an optimistic guy. I like what I've seen so far from the beginning of the Mike Norvell era, which has only been a few weeks. If we're talking on-field practices, I would go an 8-4 route. I think that's a solid year for FSU. I think that helps recruiting too. I think that also catches attention for guys that aren't so interested in FSU as much. I think it starts catching recruits outside the state of Florida. And I think it also is huge for the coaching staff too. I think they already know what they've got with Mike Norvell, but I think that only shows, we're able to do this. We have worked together before, but this is going to be successful, and you can work to a 9-3 or double-digit winning season in year 3. And I think the big key, though, is obviously Clemson's always going to be there. First game is going to be an away game and a neutral game. There will be probably more FSU fans there in Atlanta, but you're playing your first game in Atlanta against West Virginia, which West Virginia isn't special too. But still, you got Mike Norvell coming in. That's a lot of pressure on you to go deliver in that Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So I do think Florida State comes away with that one.
Okay.
I think their talent is obviously better. The Boise State game worries me right now. I'd take it as an L. I think their quarterback has special. He came in as a true freshman at Doak and got hit about 5 times, obliterated, and was still able to beat Florida State. And then there obviously Clemson, and then you got Miami and Florida. I think that's a tough game for Florida State against Florida. I think it's always a 50. I think it's a 50-50 between Florida State and Miami right now. I don't know which direction they're going to go. I'm so eager to see it because this is the part of the offseason where I'm like, I talk about it so much to where I want to see. I just give me one drive on both offense and defense. Let me just see what's cooking. Let me see what's happening.
Right.
And this game obviously is going to be where were we at Miami this upcoming season? Am I correct on that? Because y'all came. I think
yes.
Miami came this last season. Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. Are Miami fans going to be irritated if Mike Norvell's up 2 touchdowns? Are they going to throw bottles at a couple of? Are they going to throw bottles?
Most likely.
James Blackman.
Probably will happen.
But I'm 50-50 on that game. If I've got to pick right now between Florida State and Miami, I do think Miami has an edge. Obviously, Manny Diaz has an extra year ahead of Mike Norvell. The thing with Mike Norvell interests me, though, too, because he's coached with these guys before. So it's not a whole wake-up call like where it was with Willie Taggart, with bringing in guys from Maryland and other places. 50-50. Which way do I go? 51-49. 51-49. You got Derek King. Jaylan Knighton is going to be in the rotation most certainly. But then 51-49. Let me make sure there's not a lot. Is there a lot of FSU fans here in the chat box? I'm not seeing a lot of.
No, you're good. You're good. No.
I'll give the edge to Miami right now. I'll give the edge to Miami. If I could redo this and we look at the first couple games under Mike Norvell, it might change. But I think the edge for right now is Manny Diaz having an extra year above Mike Norvell. But I think it will be a good game. I mean, I hope it's a good. They are good games, but it just seems like there's the streak just keeps going either one way or the other. So,
right, absolutely. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And you're gonna go 8-4 year one. All right.
8-4. I'm a big. I played real quick. I played football for a school here, which was really most certainly like a baseball high school. So baseball, soccer.
Childs?
Yep, Childs. So
Okay.
I played football there. Our senior year, we had a lot of staff come in that was from Southside Tallahassee, from Godby, Lincoln, who are well known of winning state championships. We brought them over, and we learned real quick about manning up, and also being held accountable and disciplined, but really about being physical and being strict with one another and our teammates. And our first season, and that season alone, that was our first season where we went to the playoffs. We beat our biggest rival, Lincoln, which was huge for us. That was the first time ever beating them in school history. And we shattered tons of records. So I think I'm relating this to Florida State. It's going to be a wake up call for these players too. You had a little bit, some of them had a little bit with Jimbo, not a lot of them that are still on the roster, but a little of them still have it. And they were recruited under Jimbo. They were expecting to get coached very strictly and held in a lot of discipline. Willie Tyree didn't happen. Mike Norvell coming in, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, and just little birds going around telling us things. It's been a wake up call so far, and I think it's great. And I think players will like it and definitely the younger guys, from what I've heard, they are liking getting coached to the little things that they've been missing. And I think there'll be a good, hopefully when we have football, I think it'll be a good start to the rest of the spring practice and head into summer.
Okay. Logan, I was looking over the Florida State schedule real quick, and that's a tough schedule. You got Clemson, you got Florida. You're always going to play against NC State, Miami. I think you guys, I think it's going to make a bigger impact than people in college football in general think, with first-year head coaches or just spring canceling for every program. So I'm going to have them go down. I think they're going to lose to West Virginia because Evan Neal's coming back. So nothing's changing at West Virginia. And I could be completely wrong, but I'm going to say they go 0-1. You're going to beat Stanford. Now, playing in Boise, Idaho, is that on the Bluegrass field? Is that where the game's at? I got to give it to Boise State. I got to. West Coast time, traveling. They beat you at home. I just think Boise State's one of those programs, man. They're just consistently good. You go ahead and play them. You may not hear about them because they're in the West Coast, but I think they're a solid program. So I think you go 1-2. Hear me out on NC State. The game's in Raleigh. I actually live in Raleigh myself, so I would love to go to the game. I probably will go to the game if it doesn't interfere with a Miami game. NC State always beats Florida State. I don't know what it is, where they always get ahead. It's always a big lead. They have your number. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah. At NC State, that is correct. At NC State, Florida State fans always circle that one and are like, all right, well, great. Which that 3 week stretch, or that stretch there, it's not 3 weeks, but that 3 game stretch, Boise State, NC State, Clemson is even Wake Forest, sadly, but that stretch is tough.
So I'm gonna flip that one. I'm gonna give you guys the win. I'll go 2-2. I think you get the win in NC State. They flop a lot of games. You got Clemson the next week. You're gonna go 2-3.
Yes, most certainly.
Wake Forest at home, 3-3. Now you got Louisville at Louisville. Louisville is an up-and-coming team. They got some playmakers. I'm going to give it to Louisville that game. I think you're going to go. I'm going to give it to Louisville.
Is it because we took their quarterback? We've taken a lot of their recruits. We've beaten them twice in basketball. What else have we done to them? I can't even remember. We've done a lot in the last 8 months that they would be absolutely pissed off at us. That's probably their big edge there if they were to beat FSU.
The reason why, because I was actually going to give NC State the win, so I was trying to find an away game that was in the same division. And Louisville, I think they have a lot of playmakers. Tutu Atwell, our receiver, is very good player as well. I saw them when they played against Miami. Offensively, they got something going, but defensively, they're awful. And just any away game, you go in and you're kind of, especially after a loss or a tough season, mentally, it's kind of hard to get up for those games. So that's why I'm going to drop one, but it may not be specifically Louisville, just some division of conference opponent. I think you guys will drop one. And then you got Syracuse. I think you're going to lose to Florida. Dan Mullen's coming back. Kyle Trask. It is a home Florida State game, but Gainesville, it's an hour away, so they're going to bring their fans. I don't know if you guys, is it usually like 50, 60, 40, 70, 30, or is it more like a legit Florida State home game?
It's about 70-30. It's
70,
around
30?
there. It's about
Okay.
70-30.
Yeah.
I sit on the home side, and I always look at the away section over there, and it's usually maybe like 60-40, kind of around there, that range. It's a good crowd from Gator fans.
And Logan, don't get mad at me, but I'm gonna go 6-6. And hear me out. Kirby Smart, Ed Orgeron, I think even Nick Saban. Your first year as a new head coach, man, it's very rare to find first year success. And I know as a fan, believe me, when Coach Manny Diaz, it's his first year, I wanted to win more than 8 games because you're a fanatic, you're a diehard fan of the program. But it's hard for fanatics of like you and me that we love college football. We love our football team. So, foresee the flaws or the first growing pains. So I'm going to say 6-6. And I think going into the Miami game, Miami, they cruised through Florida State, not to rub it in at all. It was pretty easy to have success last year against Tallahassee, which was rare. I think Miami's a better team than last year. Defensive line is just got better. And I truly think I'm all in with Derek King. I really am.
Yeah.
I think he's finally that quarterback Miami's been missing. And I think Miami's going to win. It's going to be a tough game, obviously, but I think Miami will win. It's a home game. And people, like you said, throw bottles and stuff. Hey, it's part of the home field advantage, right? So,
yeah,
I got to give Miami the edge.
I do.
And what's your wait? Go ahead, Logan. Sorry.
I was gonna say too that one thing that probably is giving me more promise, because I'm about as realistic as it will get, and I'm also optimistic. So I have to fight between both of those. Realistically, a 7-5, but optimistically, if I'm adding in a discipline, which I think is going to play a big factor for FSU in a lot of ways, I think an 8-4. But what Florida State's bringing on defense could be, if it's coached well, could be an insanely. It could be a nasty defense with Adam Fuller coming in. I do think Florida State had a lot of struggles last year with injuries. I feel like every game Florida State had a guy drop down. Joshua Kando, who came from IMG, blue chip guy, went down. You still bring back Janarius Robinson, who says he's coming. Marvin Wilson, which I don't know what Mike Norvell told him when they talked privately, but brings back his front 3 all again for a second year in a row. They called him the mob. So you bring back Durden, Robert Cooper, and obviously Marvin Wilson. Amari Gaynor still out there, who I played ball with, who's got a lot of skill and is putting on a lot of pounds. And then your defensive back unit, Hampson Nasruddin comes back as being probably one of the best safeties in the country. I swear he's probably going to have 1,000 tackles before his career is over. It feels like he's a guy that just will always find the ball. Asante Samuel Jr., who I am predicting to have one of the best cornerback seasons this upcoming college football season, which is bold by me. I don't know if it's too bold, because a lot of people didn't really see Florida State last year and didn't get to see him play, but he's done his job.
I'm not high on Asante Samuel, by the way. I followed him since high school. I was never high on him, but I'm interested. Yeah, I
think at least from what I've seen in practice and what he brings, he was definitely steps ahead though of Stanford Samuel III, who I was talking about earlier. That's who I was talking about. Mike Norvell talking to and saying that you should probably leave. And I'm also high on Nakeem Dent, who's out on spring. But Travis Jay from Madison County is coming in, and he's being brought down to corner, which I'm thinking, you probably know Greg Reed. I'm kind of comparing him with Greg Reed, who played at FSU, who was punt returner, but also a little gnat at cornerback who is very physical. I think Florida State's got a defense. Obviously, Jaden Lars-Woodby comes back from injury, so I think this defense as a whole. If the linebacker position group can be figured out and DBs can be coached correctly, I think it could create a good game for if they're having to face a Derek King. But then again, he's just a kind of a different animal. I'm gonna have to set Amari Gainer on him for probably most of that game, spying him if I'm
Right.
being smart.
Right. Absolutely. And what's your prediction on Miami this upcoming season?
Upcoming season. What did you go? What was yours? Oh wait. You haven't given yours yet.
I haven't given mine yet.
Let me hold up. Let me
I
pull up
I can say mine first, and then you can look up the schedule and stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go. I got it right here. Let me see. Let's see. Holy. So Temple to start off with. Okay.
Yeah.
Dang, those are like 3. Okay, so Temple,
It's a fairly
Wagner.
easy. Yeah.
Wow. What in the world? So pretty much y'all don't start the season until at the end of September.
Right.
So
yeah.
I got 3-0 to start off with. At Michigan State. That's an interesting one. Look, well, no, it won't be chilly then. I was gonna say if it was chilly then I'd give more of a win there to Michigan State, but Michigan State has been struggling the last couple of seasons. I'll probably go Miami there too, 4-0. Pittsburgh, I think, is actually a team to kind of keep an eye out on in the ACC coming up. I'm going to say Pittsburgh beats Miami at Miami, which would, I think, that's on October 3rd. Yeah, I'm going to go Pittsburgh gets that one. I don't know what it is about Pittsburgh, but I think they're up and coming from what I saw last year. Miami at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is actually stepping up a little bit. They're going to keep who's it?
Absolutely.
Newman, the quarterback.
Newman went to Georgia.
Okay, Norman's Georgia, and now their young cat. I can't remember his name, but I know exactly what he looks like.
Okay.
But the white cat that's playing quarterback for them, I think that's also a pretty good game. I think Miami wins it, though. I don't know why, but I think Miami wins that game. And so now UNC, I'm going to go UNC. Sam Howell beats Miami in Miami.
Yep.
I will pick that one. Miami at Virginia. Their coach there has been rocking lately. I'm going to go Virginia. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to pick. It's at Virginia, yeah. What's his name? What's the coach's name? He has horse in it or something like that.
Bronco Mendenhall?
Bronco, yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to pick that. I already picked earlier. Florida State loses to Miami. God, that's so late. I didn't know this game was so late in the season now. Ooh. We'll see. That might change if we do a preview of this game later on, if we get back on here in November. But I do think Florida State loses to Miami at Miami. Miami, Virginia Tech. I think y'all beat Virginia Tech.
Really? Okay.
I think y'all do at this point in time. If you do beat Florida State, you're hot. Hopefully, you're not too distracted after the big win against one of your biggest rivals. So that happens. You beat Miami. I don't think Jeff Sims is going to be a huge factor in his year one. I don't know their quarterback depth either, so I don't know if they'd be starting or not. But I'll give you all the win against Georgia Tech, and then Duke at Miami. I think it was fun while it lasted for Duke, and y'all beat big old Duke at the end of the season. So I don't know what I picked there. Like, what was my record?
It sounded like 10-2 or 9-3.
I think I did like a 9. I'd go probably 9-3. I did
9-3.
Virginia wins. UNC wins. Pittsburgh wins. Yeah, I guess it is a 9-3. Yeah, so that's not terrible.
And that's completely fair because that was my season prediction as well, 9-3. Now the schedule is very easy. If you compare Miami to every team, it seems like they're the favorite every game if you just go off of talent. So I'm going to say 9-3 as well. Now that UNC, I'm not high on UNC. I think Sam Howell, this is going to be a sophomore slump year, and I hope I'm wrong, but that's just what I'm going to assume. So I'm going to say 9-3. Miami splits Virginia Tech game. They'll win one or lose the other. But it's a fairly easy schedule for Miami. Florida State has it a lot harder year in and year out, playing Clemson, Florida, and Miami. So that's brutally tough. And my hats off to you guys, always scheduling Miami and Florida every year, even when Miami wasn't part of the ACC. That's why I always respected Bobby Bowden. He wasn't like Florida. He wasn't scared to schedule the best teams. So, yeah, man, seemed if Florida State and Miami go 9-3, 8-4. or I think 10-2, Miami will be rolling in the future. But if I
Mm-hmm.
think we could see Miami and Florida State perhaps get back to dominance slowly if they get those records. I think 9-3, Manny Diaz is on the hot seat because it's an easy schedule. So I think 10-2 is a must. But I think 8-4 for Mike Norvell would be a great to start off.
Yeah, I think so too. With the schedule at hand, and obviously from what has happened the last 2 seasons, Florida State fans, boosters, that's a big thing in Tallahassee. Boosters, making the boosters happy, and also an 8-4 does bring recruits. You're going to get a 5-star. You are going to get a 5-star offensive lineman out of that. And if you're dropping down to the 6-win season, you are not going to get an offensive lineman. That's what Florida State has got to find is offensive linemen. I can't say it enough. They're doing good. Norvell's finding his quarterbacks too, but that's when you can kind of go a little bit above too and start competing with your division guy with Clemson and try to compete for getting those quarterbacks that you want. Definitely even those defensive linemen that I think Clemson brought in 3 5-star defensive linemen in this class, if I'm correct. It's ridiculous. So 8-4 is a solid start for Mike Norvell, most certainly. And that would make Tallahassee pretty pumped up for the 2021 season. Where Miami would be then coming into Doak Campbell Stadium, and that would hopefully be a very fun game in Tallahassee with probably primetime ABC, ESPN.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. And Logan, last question for the show: who's in your college football playoffs, and who's your national champion?
Ooh, man, this is risky business. This is risky. What is this, March? We're risking it for biscuit here. Let's see. We should be watching FSU basketball probably get out of the Elite Eight and go to the Final Four around this time.
I thought they were going to win the ACC title. I thought go for a Final Four run. I thought this was your year. It sucks that this happened.
Yeah,
Leonard Hamilton's a great coach.
I love him. He's a great man. He's a great man. It's disappointing. It's so disappointing. But back to football, which we love and dear the most. Let's see, college football playoff. And right when you say that, you always think Clemson, Alabama, like it just already like hits your brain like that, which is so annoying. It sucks that it's that way, but it's just sadly that way. Justin Fields is still at Ohio State unless I've been told otherwise. So I've got to put him in the college football playoff along with Alabama. I think Alabama will actually have a better. I don't know, man. It was weird seeing Alabama ranked number 13 at the end of the season. They're playing in that crappy Orlando Bowl. That was really weird. But Clemson is, I don't know what it is. Something's happening to them. I just don't know what it will be. They still have Trevor Lawrence, obviously. But I'll probably, just to be safe, Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. And let me search one thing real quick because I need to see what schedule they have. Let me see real quick. This is going to be – I like to make it a little bit more fun here. I can't just pick some of these big guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow. I did not know this was happening. But on September 12th, this upcoming season, Ohio State and Oregon face off at Oregon.
Wow.
At Oregon.
Wow.
And that was actually – I'm going to go Oregon in the college football playoffs.
You got Oregon. Okay.
I've got Oregon. I like what Cristobal has. Willie Taggart really wanted to bring him here, and that obviously was not the case. But I'm going to pick Oregon. I haven't really looked through their schedule that much. That's why I just saw Ohio State in there. But really, what else? I mean, they just lost. Washington just lost their coach. Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, USC, but I mean, they've been able to take care of business from what I remember last couple of seasons. Stanford, man, I don't know what it is. I guess they're just going to kind of keep their coach there to just be fine with going mediocre and at least getting a little bit of wins over their average. So, yeah, I'm going to go Oregon in this one and say that they're going to be in that college football playoff. What do you got? Are you predicting? Or are we doing championship?
Yeah, you can say you're national champion too, if you'd like.
Ohio State.
You're going to say, okay, nice.
Ohio State, yeah.
By the way, I've had 3 people on this show before you this week, and they've all said Alabama as their national champion. So You're the first one to say Ohio State. And my college football playoff is going to be Ohio State. Auburn. I think Auburn is on the rise. I like Bo Nix. I think Georgia is trending down. I'm not a fan of Jamie Newman. I don't think he did anything special at Wake Forest. I'm not too high on Alabama. I think the shuffling of coaches back and forth are changing things up, and you just can't do that. You got to have a strong core.
Yeah.
My last two is going to be Clemson by default because they're in the ACC. And then I got Texas. I like what Tom Herman did with the new offensive coaching staff. I think Sam Ehlinger is returning. I could be wrong. So, he is. Texas is going to sneak in there. And then my national champion is Ohio State. I hate to say it, but I'm high on Justin Fields. I really am. So
me and you both.
Yeah, man. I really do.
Me and you both smart. We're smart people, everyone. We're pretty smart. We might have our times, but we're actually we're pretty smart. And one thing that I think is going to hurt Ohio State, obviously got Justin Fields, but I'm really, 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 really big on Dobbins. If I'm saying that, the running back. He just left Ohio State. I guarantee you. Who did they play in the playoff? Or am I on?
They played Clemson.
Yeah, they would have beaten Clemson, in my opinion, if he wasn't hurt for a majority of that game. He was already starting off hot. He's a kind of running back that I hope that I could grab. I doubt I can, but I want him. I'm a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so I need a good running back. If I could have him, I think he's an extremely talented. So Ohio State loses a running back, but they always recycle running backs. I mean, they had Ezekiel Elliott, obviously Dobbins. So I think that's going to be a hit. But other than that, Justin Fields is a general out there on the field, and he's fun to watch too. So they'll take care of business.
And Logan, I think you said it best, man. Something weird's going on at Clemson. It's not the same Clemson, bland Clemson now. There's nothing exciting. I remember the whole second half against LSU. Trevor Lawrence didn't throw one good pass. Everything was incomplete. LSU shut him down, and then Ohio State should have went to the college football championship, unless that fumble that was called back or vice versa kind of changed the outcome of the game. So,
yeah, I was about to say that it's a little odd that we don't pick LSU again to be in the college football playoff because
they lost Joe Brady.
That's true. You lose to both those guys. With Bro too, your offense is kind of shuttered a little bit, but I do like what Orgeron has there. I think that mentality. I love hearing that locker room stuff of him yelling and cussing out. I mean, you shouldn't be filming that stuff, but that's just how football. That's how a locker room should be. That's how you want your coach to be. That's how I would like to be coached. It just takes you to a different level, puts a little bit of chest on your hair too. So I'll be interested. I do like and see. I'm tired of hearing LSU's 2019 team was better than FSU's 2013 team. I can argue about that all day long. I just need an LSU person to invite me to their YouTube stream.
Oh, I hear you, man. I hear you. LSU wins, and they think they're the greatest college football program of all time now.
Oh yeah, finally they get a quarterback and they're good.
Hey, Logan, it was more than a pleasure to have you on, man. I greatly appreciate that you took the time to come on. You had the stage, man. Any last words before we end the broadcast and go back to our normal lives?
Mainly wash your hands so then we can actually watch these games happen so we can watch them, or we'll be continuing to do these videos when it's in mid-September and we're not watching any football. So everybody stay safe. Appreciate Paul for inviting me on. I enjoyed all of it. Hopefully maybe we can get on and do this again whenever it gets close to football season and then get ready for the game that's going to happen late in the season, November.
All right, Logan, it was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Thank you for coming on, guys. Take care, Logan.
Thank you.
Broadcast.